My first piece of advice for somebody who's going to be making an application would be to really try and sell yourself in your application. In the first stage, you're given a limited amount of characters, so really use those characters to be able to explain why you want to work for that company and why you're good at that particular job field, whether it's PR, technology, whatever it is. Really explain why you're the ideal candidate for that role.
Okay, so my first piece of advice, if you were thinking of making an application, would be to research the company in full. I think when you get to the interview stages and things like that, these directors of companies, they can see through it, when you've only seen a few brief details on the website and things like that. I think if you make the effort to go through press releases and LinkedIn and other things to make sure you have a concrete idea of what the company does, and if you're a fit for it as well, you'll have a lot more confidence when it comes to those stages. My second piece of advice, if you were thinking of applying, would be to just pay attention to the dates of the processes, as obvious as it sounds. Make sure you've got the assessment centre days free.
Okay. My first piece of advice for someone making an application would be to really try and understand the role. So obviously the job description is what you want to go to, and really read it in depth, and then relate it back to what you think the company does, and maybe look at the company's website, look at who their clients are and look at their websites, and just try and understand what they do, and therefore try and work out what that role is and what your sort of day-to-day activities will be. And that will sort of allow you to tailor your application so that you can showcase the skills which will help you in that role.
My second piece of advice for somebody who's going to be making an application would be to really tailor your application to the organisation and to the job role. So look at who you're applying to. If you're applying to a charity, talk about what you've done for a charity in the past. If you're applying for an engineering firm, talk about work experience that you've had or experience that you've had when you're at university. But really make sure that whatever you write is tailored to that specific job role and it isn't generalised.
My second piece of advice for making an application would be detailed, but don't go on too much. You want to keep your points concise and make sure you're only giving the details of what's actually important, what the employer will actually want to read. You've got to remember that the employer has a lot of applications to go through, so you want to grab them fairly early on and then make sure you can tell them specifically what you've got to offer for the role and how your past experiences directly relate to the role you're applying for. You don't want to bore them to death. You really want to let them know that you are the candidate that they should be interviewing.